Peace. Peace, worthy maiden. Can you hear me? One. All right. What's up, Void? We're going to get rolling here in just a second. Charles Curry in the house. What's happening? So y'all can't hear me, right? Oh, okay. All right. All right. Loud and clear. All right. Good. We're going to get going here in just a second. We're going to let a wise feminine what's happening. Thank you for stopping by, dropping in. We're going to get rolling here in just a second. Peace. God's child, Inc. Islam. Just let a couple more people get in before we get rolling. Make sure I get the make sure we get our video together here. A little bit out of focus. A little bit out of focus. Let's see. Make sure this is. I don't know why it seems to be a little bit out of focus. Maybe I need to back up. All right, all right. Okay, let's roll. Let's roll with it. Okay, the last time the last conversation dealing with Candyman, we got to the scene where Candyman meets Helen for the first time, or they meet each other for the first time in the parking garage. All right. So let's go into the next scene that was coming up. It was Candyman at Helen's condominium. Okay. After discovering that Candyman was standing behind her when she took the first set of photos, Helen is attacked by him in her condominium. Now, just to give a backdrop, a refresher, Helen is in her condominium and she's looking through some slides of photos she took when she went to Cabrini Green. As she's looking at one of the photos, she discovers that Candyman was standing behind her while she was taking the photo. If you go back and look at the old Bobby Hemmett videos, he tells a story about how in 1993 he was in the Sphinx Metaphysical bookstore, and I think he said a psychic may have told him that standing behind him was a tall man, black man, dressed in Arab garb, and he made the association that this was AWAS. Okay, it's very similar to. She's looking at these pictures and she discovers that standing behind her was Candyman. Now, because this is a so-called horror movie, that aspect of it can easily get lost in the minutia, because it's the fright of this threat standing behind the main character who is signals that her life is in danger. So, things of that nature. But it's a deeper meaning behind it. It also reminds us of It also reminds us of a scripture here that a lot of people are probably familiar with. And let me see if I can find it. Trying to go off memory. I want to say it's I want to say it's 16. Maybe it's chapter 20. Matthew's chapter 20. Okay, that's what we're gonna do. We ain't gonna sit here and I ain't gonna thumb myself to death going back and forth on these pages. This is what I'm gonna do. We're gonna cheat. Good old Google. Okay. What I'm looking for is Matthew. Yeah, I was in the right chapter. Matthew 16 and 23. Sure, many of you all familiar with this passage. We'll start at 16 and 22. Then Peter took him and began to rebuke him, saying, "Be it far from thee, Lord, this shall not come unto thee." 23. But he turned and said unto Peter, "Get thee behind me, Satan. Thou art an offense unto me, for thou savorest not the things that be of God, but those that be of men." Okay. Now, normally when we read that, it's perceived negatively, but think about what Bobby Hemmett said. He's in the Sphinx Metaphysical Bookstore. Awas is not in front of him, he's behind him. Helen is in her condominium looking at photos, and in the picture, she finds that Candyman is behind her. Behind each one of us, we have something called a spine. Going back to those SP words again. A spine, which is the same, starts with the same letters as spirit. Okay, we've often seen the picture of Horus, the two-headed Horus, where Horus is looking this way, and Set, who's supposed to be his adversary, is looking this way, as in behind him. We can go on and on with this, but what this okay, one more example. In the story of the story of Lot's wife in Genesis, the story of Sodom and Gomorrah, where Sodom is getting rained on by these fiery stones, okay, falling down on it. And Lot and his family are getting out of town, and they said, don't look back. And Lot's wife looks back. She turns into what? A pillar of salt. So that pillar is the spine, is the Jed pillar. It is Jacob's ladder. It is the necessary conduit for moving one along the spiritual journey. It is a resolution of the perceived dichotomy or the perceived conflict. Okay, so that's very just something interesting to point out about that scene there. And of course she's frightened by this. So Candyman shows up in the condominium after she sees his picture. Okay, Candyman says, "Do you believe in me?" Helen says, "Keep away from me." I think the dialogue is just excellent in the movie because it seems so simple, and it just seems like, typical, you're afraid of the villain, and it's typical, keep away from me, but it's deeper than that. I talked about last time about when you get on the quote unquote path, it is not about bubble gum and gumdrops. It is very frightful at times. It is a challenge to one's confidence. It can be unsettling. It can be unnerving. It can, we can go on and on and on. And it could leave one wanting to express the sentiment of keep away from me, you know? No, this ain't what I signed up for. Keep away from me, okay? And so listen to this. The dialogue is off the chain. Candyman says, I have the child. Allow me to take you, or he will die in your place. Now, I'm jumping ahead here to another discussion I want to have on, first of all, let me say I'm always behind on watching movies. I just now saw last week in the Marvel thing about Infinity Wars. And I'm glad that that's the way I am, because I don't get caught up into the hoopla of trying to race to decode things. I'm always late. I was the last one in my class to have a CD player when I was in high school. Matter of fact, it was after high school till I was still rocking the tape deck. But there's something divine about that. So in Infinity Wars, Thanos has to make a decision, and you're going to see Thanos come between the two pillars, mercy and severity, Joachim and Boaz, and he has to make a decision. Okay, Candyman says, "I have the child. Allow me to take you, or he will die in your place." Well, Thanos has to sacrifice his daughter. Now, this is not to suggest that literal sacrifice of your child is the let me make sure I clarify that. Okay, it's a metaphorical representation of basically giving up and letting go of what you thought was reality. Okay, something that we all can relate to, on even on the most profane level. I had to years ago give up the idea that I was making a lot of money in businesses, at least a lot of money for me, more money than I had ever made in my life, and I was not prepared to be in that situation, and I went ape shit crazy, and I had to get to a point where I had to give up all this time I built and moved to Texas, and I built up and built myself until I was able to have this phenomenal business, training 60 to 70 clients a month. And, you do the math on it, that's a lot of bread. You got 60, 70 people paying you a month. And then to F it up, So I had to get to a point where I had to let it go, in order to move forward. I had to let it go. And you see that with Thanos in this scene in Infinity Wars. And I won't go into great detail, because that's another discussion. But it's also coincides within the movie here. And Candyman tells her, I have the child. Allow me to take you, meaning you got to give yourself up if you want this child to survive. Otherwise, this child, he will die in your place. Candyman goes on to say, your disbelief destroyed the faith of my congregation. Without them, I am nothing. So I was obliged to come. And now I must kill you. What did Cain do to Abel? Cain killed Abel. Well, Abel is the fruit. Cain is the hunter, basically the hunter. Okay, hunter comes back from hund. Hund is hand. The hand kills. Kill means reveal. Cain reveals the essence of Abel. It's not a story of fratricide, the way it's presented and the way people interpret it. Those two, again, we're always trying to find a way to resolve the perception of separation. Okay, because we would see Cain as the aggressor and Abel as the poor, helpless victim. Cain's the bad guy, Abel's the good guy. We see Horus as the good guy, Set is the bad guy. The picture of Set behind Horus is showing that the goal is always to resolve what is perceived as being the separation. Okay. The Kabbalion, 7 different instances to show that the goal is to resolve the separation, or the word fails me. I want to use but you get it. The conflict resolution is not just something about what you do at your job, or when you and your mate got to go to an arbitrator and go to counsel. Conflict resolution, in my humble opinion, is the ultimate purpose of existence. What did Thanos keep saying in the movie? I want to restore balance. Okay. So let's keep going. He says, you destroyed the faith of my congregation. Without them, I am nothing. So I was obliged to come, and now I must kill you. Your death will be a tale to frighten children, to make lovers cling closer in their rapture. Come with me and be immortal. Now, how can you make sense of that? That sounds like a madman. You know, how can we make sense of that? Well, for one, death, as in die, means to give. Okay, we talked about this the last conversation. That give comes from geb, which means to give and receive. Okay, so death is an exchange. All right, your exchange will be a tale to frighten. Frighten comes from the root prey, and from that same root we find the word free. Your exchange will be a tale to free children. Ain't that something? Language always shows you its opposite. That's when you study the roots of words. Again, you normally think of freedom as something. Okay, I think I'm back. If you can hear me, give me a 1, please. Said my connection had broken for a second. If we're still rocking, somebody give me a 1, please. Let me know we live. All right, thank you, Wise Family. Thank you, Charles. Okay, so your death exchange will be a tale to free children. Now that same root, pray, P-R-A-I, also coincides with the word precious. Okay, your tale will free children, and it's also referring to something precious. The children are precious. Okay, to make lovers cling closer in their rapture. In the tarot, the lovers coincides with Gemini. We just moved from Gemini to Cancer. The North Node is currently in Gemini. So again, another example of how timely this movie is. You know, so again, your exchange will free children who are precious, to make lovers, the Gemini or the twins or duality, cling closer in their rapture. So to resolve, again, duality, conflict resolution. Come with me and be immortal. Come with me and be a god. Resolve your imbalances. Resolve the idea of separation and become immortal. Then at the next point, her friend Bernadette, we talked about Bernadette last time. Bernadette shows up at Helen's door to bring her flowers, and she calls for Helen. Helen hears her and says, Bernadette, Bernadette, go. She's trying to warn her, is what is the perceived meaning of this, is the context of this scene. Bernadette, Bernadette, go. But it's really burn a debt, go. Now go. So many things here are elements of a whole nother lecture, because go refers to gold, okay, which is also the tribe of Gad, which is also God. So, but what is it really saying? Go, as in gold. I don't think I have another one in here. I'm trying to think if I can see where I got one. Let me see. I used to, this statue, one of my kids broke this, but if you, this statue used to have a flail and a crook, okay? And I had it somewhere, I saved it, but I don't know what I did with it, but this is the point. The flail and the crook, when you see the pharaoh like this, I've for years I wanted somebody to explain to me what the flail and the crook mean, and I've never heard anybody explain it, at least not to my satisfaction. So I kept digging, and again, this is the benefit of language, okay? Of studying language. The Egyptian flail coincides with what's called a goad, G-O-A-D. And a goad is also a pride. Now we're starting to get a little closer now to understanding what this means, because a prod is something that you hit an animal with and it's usually painful, and it makes them keep moving. Go. Okay. If you look at the character Bo Peep carries in her left hand a staff. Okay. That staff is also called a crook. Crooked, like the apples, the cane, the crook. So one is the flail. The flail is to go. Okay. The crook is to retain. And those two symbols are amazing because they explain a whole bunch of stuff. They can even explain digestion. To digest your food, there has to be two basic things. Something's got to go, which is the flail, and something has to be retained, which is the crook. The flail is called catabolism, the breaking down of the foods you eat. The crook would be anabolism, the building of tissue, of cells, by retaining what is taken from the food we eat. In this scene, burn a debt, go. That's the flail. Because Helen is trying to hold on. Okay? Candyman is the other side that's pushing things forward. Okay? in the Bible when it says, yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thine art with me, thy rod and thy staff, the flail and the crook, are with me. The valley of the shadow of death, everything still comes back to, again, if you go back and see that video I did a couple years ago, sex, shit, and the stomach, digestion, thy rod and thy staff. There's a subconscious mind that exists that is controlling the anabolism, which is the building, and the catabolism, which is the destruction. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Everything is everything. Okay, next scene. Let's keep going. While she's being committed to the psych hospital, Candyman speaks to Helen, because what happened was he came and showed up and he murders Bernadette, which is the burning. That scene is supposed to represent the burning of the dead. Okay. So he kills her, and of course he disappears. So it looks like Helen is the perpetrator. So they commit her to the psych hospital. While she's traveling there, the voice of Candyman starts to speak to Helen. Why do you want to live? If you would learn just a little from me, you would not beg to live. I am rumor. One of the illest lines in the movie. It is a blessed condition, believe me, to be whispered about on street corners, to live in other people's dreams, but not have to be. Do you understand? Again, Candyman is associated with bees. Be, to not have to be. Okay, now I'm gonna go ahead and jump ahead here, because be, there's a word that connects, a connecting word. Dibber. The character Deborah in the Bible. Dibber. Hebrew meaning of Deborah is bee, as in bzz, the honeybee. But the word Deborah also means word. Okay? He says to live in other people's dreams, but not have to be. Now, this is some ill shit right here. You got to hear this. Okay, it's story time with Brother Jay. All right, let me tell you a little story here. So this little angel is supposed to be on a property, made this to go on a Christmas tree. Okay, so a couple years ago, I go to North Carolina to visit my mother and my family, right? So while I'm there, I built me a little altar in the room that I was staying in, because I was at my mother's house for, I guess I went up there for about a month. Then the rest of my family came up there to visit. Now check this out. Before I got there, let me say this first. I found this little ornament, tree ornament, at a thrift store. Me and my mom and my sister, we went thrifting while I was up there, and we would, and so I go in there and I'm looking for things that catch my eye that I would create me some altars with while I was there. And this thing spoke to me, or this goddess spoke to me. Now, once you look at the colors, you see this gold? All right, let me tell you about this dream I had. I had a dream. The woman in this dream looked just like this. Her hair was in a bun like this, but she wasn't dressed like this. Okay? She was dressed like this teacher I had in third grade who was real sharp, Miss Jackson. Miss Jackson was just polished, She had on a off-white blouse that was a little lighter, bone off-white color blouse. Okay. She had gold bangle bracelets on, and she had on a gold skirt that was almost like this color, but she looked like this woman. Okay. We were in a college auditorium, like classroom. Okay. She called me down to the front of the room, and she gave me a huge book. And this is the only book I have that's close to it. The book this is just a Random House dictionary, but it was this book, like it looks like this, but the book was about this thick. She handed it to me like this, like, when they swearing in the president. She handed it to me, and she opened it, and she pointed to something in there with some word that I don't know what the word. I think I remembered it at first, but I've since forgotten it. I don't know what she showed me. But this is what's significant. By now, if you follow my channel, you know I'm fascinated with words and language and the magic behind language. Okay. Well, Thoth is the Egyptian deity who is described, right? But Thoth gets what he will articulate or write or so forth or scribe. It is whispered in his ear by a goddess named Seshet. And that's how I figured out who she is. This is Seshet, because she is the keeper or goddess of books. That's what she handed me a book. Okay, so it's Thoth, so it all ties into this scene here. I know it sounds like it's just random, but it's gonna all come together. In this scene, Candyman says to live in other people's dreams. This goddess visited me in a dream to deliver something to me. Okay, so to put me on assignment. Oh shit! I've been talking all this time. I don't even have my mic hooked up all the way. How about the sound now? Is the sound better? Mic check, mic check, mic check. You can hear me? Okay. Ain't that crazy? All right. But I'm glad y'all been hearing me though, either way. The sound good on my, okay, good. So she visited in my dreams. He says to live in other people's dreams, but not have to be as in the word. That's Seshet. Seshet lives in the dreams, but she doesn't have to be the word because she's the keeper of the word. She's the queen bee. Oh man. Then he says, do you understand? Wow. Helen's next line is, please God, don't let him kill the baby. There she signs the contract. She has, remember the previous scene, Candyman serves as the goad or the go. Bernadette, go. Flail, go. Cattle prod. Okay, so now she is accepting the contract because she says, please God, goad, don't let him kill the baby. So she's committing herself to the path. This is a beautiful movie. Next scene, Candyman feeds the baby. The baby is Anthony, okay? Anthony is the Christ child. I wrote, this is maybe the most important scene in the movie where Candyman feeds Anthony honey with his left hand, okay? Remember, and they kind of reverse it because, Candyman kills people with the hook or the crook. But he's actually feeding. He's feeding with the left hand, which represents technically the crook, but because it's the left side, you know. But he feeds the baby honey, which that right there lets you know what Candyman represents. He has become the word, the bee, Deborah, because he is producing honey. That lets you know it's just not some horror movie. He's just not a madman. He's a Christ figure. He would be Horus the elder, and Anthony would be Horus or the baby Horus. Okay, they're both Horus figures. So I want to read something here. This whole thing of him feeding Anthony honey, because it likens to a verse in a passage in Ezekiel. Ezekiel chapter 3, 1-3. Son of man, go eat that thou findest, eat this roll, and go speak to Israel. So I opened my mouth, and he caused me to eat that roll. And he said unto me, Son of man, cause thy belly to eat, and fill thy bowels with this roll that I give thee. Then did I eat, and it was in my mouth as honey for sweetness. This verse connects that the honey is the word. Deborah, B. Candyman feeds Anthony honey, the word, preparing him to be the Christ. This movie is heavy. This scene, I expound on that in the notes here. And when we get to the end, when I do the etymology, we're gonna really we just grazing the surface right now. We're setting, basically this is the outline we're doing now. Helen escapes from the psych hospital. That's the next scene. After she summoned, see, this is how you know she's on the path, because she summoned Candyman now. Previously, she thought Candyman was, I don't know if he's real or not. She done been through enough shit now. She knows Candyman is a real deal Jimmy. So now she summons him. Okay? Because the psychiatrist does not believe her. All right? So she summoned Candyman. He come and he murks the psychiatrist. And so after she summons Candyman and he appears and kills the psychiatrist, Helen goes back to her because she escaped after Candyman killed her. She goes back. Oh, I can't overlook this, because after he kills the psychiatrist, he cuts the bands that they got the little bands that they got her bound to the chair. The 15th card in Tarot is the devil card, and the devil card is in different variations in decks. It's hands that are bound, but like I don't know if it's the weights deck, it's like they're bound, but if you look close, they appear to be bound, but they're not. So Candyman breaks the chains, so to speak. He removes the restraints, referring to the devil card. She feels like she's trapped, but she's not. Just some heavy shit. So he frees her. She escapes from the psych hospital. Okay, now check this out. She goes back to her condominium only to discover that Trevor has moved, who is her husband, has moved his lover in. Helen leaves distraught and goes to reflect. She then hears the voice of Candyman again, but now go back to framing. We got to go back to framing. While she's hearing this voice of Candyman, she's on a bridge that's over water, like a bridge over troubled water, a bridge over troubled water. Now Candyman speaks to her. He says, they will all abandon you. All you have left is my desire for you. Desire. Desire. I don't know where it's at. I got these. Oh. Desire. Desire. Desire coincides with this pillar or this Sephira right here. This is Sephira Splendor. This is the 8th Sephira. Okay. It coincides with these two, victory and splendor, because these are dealing with desire. Okay. So she is now, so to speak, manifesting her reality, a new reality. Okay. He says, all this left is my desire from you. Everything else has been stripped away. Because remember, we referenced this Sephira last time. 5 is severity. Okay. That's called Gabora. Gabora is also Givora. Givora is give birth. See, everything the trick with this stuff is to not get caught in what it appears at the surface. When you hear somebody about somebody getting severed or something getting severed, that sounds horrible. But if it was not for severing, none of us would be here, because that's what happens. That's what birth is. Givora, give birth of an aura, give birth of, keep going on and on. To give birth, you have to be severed from the mother. Because for you to be a functional person in 3D, the cord has to be cut. Stuff is amazing, man. Okay, let's keep moving. We gotta keep pushing on. Again, this is a water under the bridge of water is also spirit hovering above emotions too. All right, I want to add that in. Helen go, but before I go on from there, I got to lay on that, because the North Node is in Gemini. Gemini is the twins. Gemini is I think. Gavora, severity, coincides with the planet Mars. Mars is going to be in his home sign of Aries starting around the 27th of this month for 6 months. I'm not an astrologer. I don't do charts, but I'm learning. Let's say it like that. 6 months, from what I've learned, is unheard of, and an unheard of amount of time for Mars to be in its home sign. Mars activates aggression. It's definitely a go, as in a flail, but everything can get out of balance. 6 months of this energy, okay, means that emotions are going to be high, buttons are going to be easily pushed, and people can do wacky things that they may not have done in a clearer mind. The North Node is in Gemini. The North Node is the bridge that Helen is standing on over the water. Okay, the water is the emotion. It is important that our thoughts, are not bypassed or overlooked in these times. You understand me? That we are moving into air. We're moving in the air. We've been in very dense energy for hundreds of years. We are now moving into air. Since like the 1400s, when Jupiter and Saturn have conjuncted, except for maybe 1 or 2 times they've been in earth or water, mainly earth. They're now, for the next 200 and some years, I think, starting at the end of this year, they're going to be in air. That's where we are. And what is, we always talking about the age of Aquarius? Air. Air. What's everything being pushed now is emotion. Emotion. Raw, unfiltered, unchecked. Emotion. Very little emphasis is being placed on thought. Your thought elevates above, not to disregard emotion, but there's a reason for all four elements. You understand me? You know, the bridge over water. Okay, I ain't gonna keep going on that because that's no, that was not part of the. Next scene, Helen goes looking for Candyman and to attempt to kill him. Okay. When Helen goes looking for Candyman, she enters, the way the scene is set, she enters into the apartment and his face is on the wall and the hole she goes through is through his mouth. And it's like she's coming out of his mouth as the word, but I also reversed it as if she's going into him too, because that's where he was found. Now, I'm taking liberties on this because but I did watch her path as she went into the space. She enters and she turns to the right. She goes to the right and all these candles are lit. She then climbs up the stairs. Okay, at this point, I'm thinking about another scripture. God bless C. Freeman L, because this is where he's the one who I learned this from. 1 Kings 6 and 8. The door of the middle chamber was in the right side of the house. And they went up with winding stairs into the middle chamber and out of the middle in the third. This is talking about Solomon's temple. She went to the right, saw the light. She went, and then she went up some steps. And then as she walks by, before she gets up the steps, she's walking by, she sees the story of Candyman's murder reenacted on the walls. She can also hear the sounds. Helen then tries to kill him to no avail. But I want to back up because what she saw was what we call the Akashic records. She saw and heard the scene of the crime. Okay, what we would call she saw the Akashic. Well, basically time don't exist. She was able to go backwards and forwards. Okay. Here's a dialogue, and then we're gonna wrap up this. We're gonna wrap up these scenes, and then the third time I'm coming back, we're gonna do the etymology, which is gonna be the real get down. Candyman, Helen, you came to me. Helen, the child, we had a deal. Candyman, surrender to me now, and he shall be unharmed. Helen, and I'm afraid. Candyman, do you fear the pain or what is beyond? Wow. Helen, both. I fear the pain and I fear the unknown. Wow. Candyman, the pain. This is some ill shit. The pain, I can assure you, will be exquisite. As for our deaths, there is nothing to fear. Our names will be written on 1,000 walls. Our crimes told and retold by our faithful believers. We shall die together before their very eyes and give them something to be haunted by. Come with me and be immortal. Again, this whole scene is talking about becoming legendary, almost becoming a deity. You know, we learned from Bobby Hemming, he said that the deities live when you call their names. While you do the invocation, while you do the libations, your ancestors live when you call their names. That movie, what's that Disney movie? God dog. But the boy says, "Remember me." It's it's not the Book of the Dead, but it's very similar to that book. You know, where the little boy has to go over into the other side, and his grandfather, he has to redeem his grandfather. Damn, I can't think of the movie. Coco, thank you, Coco. And he has to, they have to remember the grandfather, or he does not live. Remember, to put back together. Okay. So he's saying through memory, we will be immortal, because memory is where Osiris is rejoined, right? Because he's remembered. Okay. He is dismembered by Set, but Isis remembers him. That's how he comes back to life. All right, so here's something. At the end of this dialogue, Candyman opens his coat. He exposes his wounded rib cage that is filled with bees. I mean, that's just, it's unbelievable. This he's filled with the word, okay? With bees pouring out his innards and mouth, which his innards would be his bowels. Remember the scripture we read from Ezekiel? And he said unto me, Son of man, cause thy belly to eat and fill thy bowels with this roll. This is Candyman. His bowels are pouring out. He's licking the word. He's so full of the word. When he opens up his coat, it just oozes out of him. Afterwards, he then kisses Helen. The word kiss means oracle. He delivers the word oracle. Afterwards, Helen is dripping, has honey dripping from her. No, Candyman has honey dripping from his lips. Again, they're showing you he's the word. They wrote the hell out of this movie. Candyman picks up the baby. That scene we'll talk about. This is real quick, but the line is poignant. He says, "You're mine now. It's time for a new miracle." Pluto is a planet of death, as you know, you're always going to hear that. There's a flip side to Pluto. It's also the planet of birth. Candyman says, "You're mine now. It's time for a new miracle." It's time for a new miracle, ladies and gentlemen. One world is dying, a new one is being born, which is a miracle. Let's keep moving. We got to get through these scenes. Helen awakens. This is after she tries to kill him, and he kisses her. She falls asleep. Helen awakens. Candyman has left her with the hook and a message. Candyman says, as she's walking and leaving out of the little Solomon's temple, or leaving out of the space where Candyman was. Candyman's voice is saying, "It was always you, Helen. It was always you." All right. We're going to fast forward here. And let me summarize the movie or the action. After Helen wakes up, there's the residents of Cabrini Green have built this tower. Remember, Tower of Babel coincides with language. There was one tongue. That's a mythological story that is a real story. It's saying there was one tongue, and man's tongue got broken up into dialects and so-called languages. Etymology is the pursuit of finding the singularity of man's communication through tracing it back to symbols or archetypes. They rebuilt the Tower of Babel on the roof of the apartment building, but all this trash stacked up. Okay, Candyman is hiding in this pile of trash with the baby. Helen hears the baby crying and she goes to pursue it. Okay, she climbs up into the pile of trash, and the residents come out because they want to kill Candyman. They light it on fire. Okay, basically, Helen double crosses Candyman stabs him in the heart with a wooden stake. I mean, we could go all into breaking this, but that's just this. We're gonna keep it moving. She recovers the baby, crawls out of the emblazoned tower or heap, but she later on dies. All right, but she preserves the life of Anthony. Remember, we go back in the dialogue. She had to give herself. That's what this is ultimately saying. She had to sacrifice herself or her ego, and which we said it coincides with Thanos has to make this big sacrifice as he becomes the middle pillar in Kabbalah in Infinity Wars. Okay. This is where I want to go to the next scene, though, from this. I call this the right hand of fellowship. Now, you just got to bear with me. I wrote in this, I said, I grew up in the Baptist church, and when a new member joined, they would be given the right hand of fellowship. At the particular church I attended, the members would walk around in a circle and shake the new member's hand with their right hand to welcome them. At Helen's funeral, the residents from Cabrini Green show up with Anne Marie. Remember, Anne Marie is the mother of the Christ child. Anne, you got to come back for part 3 when we do the etymology. Anne Marie. Marie is Mary. Mary is the mother of the Christ, right? Anne Marie is leading the group. Now listen to how she's dressed. She is dressed in a red scarf. I used to sell these things. She's dressed in, well, never mind. I'll show that some other time. She's dressed in a red scarf, a black coat, and green gloves. Red, black, and green. She's got on red scarf, black coat, and green gloves. The little boy, Jake, goes up to the grave. The coffin is already down into the earth, and he drops the hook into the grave and onto the casket. That I liken to the right hand of fellowship. Because that hook that was dropped down is what she would use to avenge her death by later on killing Trevor. There's so many things that can be extracted from this scene. Well, here's one thing I want to say, and I'm going to come back and talk about this another time. I keep saying everybody is thrust into a world of emotion right now. Emotion, emotion, emotion. You know? But I like to go back and deal with the etymology. I want to deal with the etymology of the word ammunition. And let me find this word. Ammunition. Ammunition, 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 ammunition. Yes. MEI, Roman numeral 3. That's the family title of these. That's the title of this root family. No, that's not it. Hold on. That didn't even sound right to me. Hold on. No. H. I think this is it. Bear with me 1 second. Yes. Hold on. Yeah. Okay. This root is Bhes, okay, which means scrape, rub, okay. And from this family, this is where the word sand ties back to this root. Now, if you go back to the movie Dark Crystal, what was the main thing that they were attempting to do was to restore the shard. Shard is a piece of broken glass or crystal. Glass is composed of what? Sand. Sand. So, from this same root, this same root is tied back to the word ammo, as in ammunition. There's a lot of conversation about ammunition these days, weapons and so forth. But another word that comes from that same root family is amino acids. Now, amino acids are the building blocks of protein. Amino acids, tracing back to the correlation with sand, is also the builder of things, because sand congealed together forms cement, which forms a lot of our structures that our highways and everything else. Have you ever heard the saying, thoughts become things? You see, when Helen gave up what she thought she was holding on to, what she needed to hold on to, she became immortal. This is not to promote death, because the death is a metaphor, okay? She became immortal. She received the right hand of fellowship, okay? For every piece of ammunition, one would be, in my humble estimate, wise to counter with amino acids. Yes, amino acids. Because they build life, they build reality. So what am I ultimately saying? What is magic? What is it ultimately? Can it be as simple as making something out of nothing? Can it be as simple as when you saw your mama or your daddy or your grandmama go in the kitchen and create a meal out of nowhere? See, there's a learning tool in that, because they would create this meal that would be packed with amino acids. Okay, even if it was just putting some beans together, they had amino acids in them to help you continue to survive and flourish, even through, for us, a rough winter, The bridge over troubled water, and the reason why you still keep pointing to the North Node is so that you can think above what is the pool that is being laid out for you. The pool is being laid out to just trigger your emotions, no thought. But when you utilize your thoughts powerfully and properly, they become magical, and thoughts become things. This is for those who have the ears to hear it. Those thoughts become things. So within that same root family, you see the juxtaposition of ammunition and amino acids, of physical, profane warfare versus magical warfare. I want to conclude with this. The bee makes honey by swallowing nectar and housing it in a second stomach. called the honey stomach. Digestive enzymes start converting the nectar into honey. The conversion continues by bees passing the substance from mouth to mouth. The kiss, the oracle. The raw substance is deposited into a hexagon-shaped pod, and the bees begin to flap their wings to evaporate the excess water. That sounds very familiar. They begin to flap their wings to evaporate the excess water. Osiris Phallus was missing, and Isis came and restored it with a wooden phallus, transformed herself into a bird, and flapped her wings vehemently until he ejaculated and produced Horus. The bees began to flap their wings to evaporate the excess water, which would be the equivalent of releasing the semen. The semen is the seed is the word. A final important fact about bees is that they communicate through vibration. Okay, I'm going to stop there. The next time I come back, we're going to go into the etymology. And we're going to really bring this whole thing home and wrap it up. So, I want you to go and support. I think I saw him in here somewhere. The brother Wali Bey. Go to his. You go to his YouTube page. Wali Scott Bey. Okay, and check out his information. He's got a book he just published that's dealing with astrology, numerology, knowledge of self overall. And y'all got the chat lit, all right? At least on, by our little humble standards, I appreciate everybody tuning in. Let's see. Final thing. Some things I got, as always. I've got the Scribe It, Say It, Sex It document available on the website. You can go over there and get you a copy of the book, The Lies Behind the Ties. Okay. When you purchase this, you'll be able to download this immediately. This is a PDF. I'll mail you a copy out of this when you make a purchase. If you've already purchased both documents and you want a shirt, email me. Let me know, and I'll mail your shirt to you. Because for everybody who buys a book and the document, you get you a free shirt. And back, give me 6 feet. Hey, let's have fun with all of the angst. And I've been social distancing for decades. I mean that from the heart. I'll send you out one of those. And as always, I appreciate everybody tuning in. And stay down until you get down. Stay down until you get up. Excuse me. And when you get up, stay down. Peace.